name is Maeve McCormack and I'm coming to you from Sligo Library on behalf of Europe Direct. Today I'm talking to Linda Lally from the MSLETB about Generation Apprenticeship. Linda, you're very welcome.
Thank you, Maeve. Thank you.
Can I start by asking you about the organisation MSLETB?
Yeah, and thanks again for having me. So my name is Linda Lally from the MSLETB, and for those who are not familiar with the ETB, it's Mayo Sligo Leitrim Education and Training Board. We're based in Ballytivenin in Sligo, and we have the Further Education and Training site in Key Street as well. So the MSLETB is involved in the provision of training for secondary schools, for youth reach, for music generation, for traineeships, and for apprenticeship, of course, as well. So, and I suppose my role in the ETB, I'm a training advisor, and I work with employers who are taking on apprentices or who want to take on apprentices, and then I work with the apprentices themselves when they've started their programme and see them from one end to the other. I work with other groups, schools and colleges around promotion of apprenticeship as well. So that's my role within that.
Okay, and nowadays there are huge apprenticeship opportunities and it seems to be expanding all the time, particularly with the government action plan to increase the number of apprenticeships available in the coming years. Can you give us an overview of how it works with the MSLTB? You've kind of got your earn and learn model, and then I know there's various different options and areas where apprenticeships are available.
Yeah, and that's it. The whole notion of earn and learn is I think one that people have heard of before, which is good. So basically, an apprenticeship is essentially a structured program of training where there's on and off the job. And so anyone entering into an apprenticeship, and as you mentioned, there are many now, there are over 65, they will do a block of training, a couple of blocks of training, and it depends on the apprenticeship that you do. But if it's a traditional trade apprenticeship, there'll be 3 blocks of training where they'll go off the job away from their employer. If it's some of the newer generation apprenticeships, that block of training can be 1 day a week to 2 days a week to blocks of training. But essentially, it's time on the job with the employer and time away from your employer. That's the definition of an apprenticeship.
Okay, and I know you said there are 65 different apprenticeships. Can you give us an idea of the types of areas they're in? I don't expect you now to list off all 65, just to get an indication of what's available.
Yeah, so, you know, I suppose years ago there was, when you mentioned apprenticeship, it was your carpenter and your plumber or your motor mechanic. And they're the traditional craft apprenticeships, and there's 26 of those. But since 2016, there's new generation apprenticeships, so lots of new programmes have been developed. And they're in sectors like ICT and hospitality and logistics and healthcare. So virtually across all sectors, there's an apprenticeship programme available now. Do you want to know about the structure? Or
yes, about the structure. I suppose 2 things really in the structure. First of all, you said sometimes it could be a day a week, or you might go in a block release. And also, from a structural point of view, people want to apply how they fit into the apprentice. Do they need to get an employer, or do they apply to you, or how that works?
Yeah.
So 2 questions there.
Yeah. So I mean, the structure of it for your traditional craft trades, that's a 4-year programme, right? And that's a level 6 advanced craft cert. That's what you gain when you finish it. For the newer generations, they're anything from 2 years to 4 years, and they range from level 5 to level 10 in the National Framework of Qualifications. So just, I suppose, briefly, if you are looking to become an apprentice in any of the craft trades, it's over 4 years. There's 7 phases. I talked about on and off the job, so there's 3 blocks where they'll go into training and the rest of the time is spent with the employer. For the new generation apprenticeships, and there's a lot of them, and they vary from 2 years to 4 years, I said. So the block, the off-the-job block might be 1 day a week away from the employer and 4 days on the job with the employer. Sometimes there's a block of 15 weeks off the job, so it depends on the programme.
On the areas. There's no general.
But generally, the newer generation are kind of between 2 and 4 years. And as I said, really the key thing is the craft ones, they're all 4 years in duration.
Okay. And do you need any particular qualification to qualify for an apprenticeship?
Yeah, so the entry requirements for the craft apprenticeship are junior cert or leaving cert or applied leaving cert. Now for the newer generation, I would say that it's worthwhile having a look at the apprenticeship.ie website, because there's so many, the entry requirements can differ, but it's generally Leaving Cert. Some of them are Junior Cert, but generally Leaving Cert. They also take into account recognition of prior learning for older people that might want to come back into it that mightn't necessarily have that. So, but it's worthwhile doing your research there just to see what exactly the entry requirements, because some of them will look for maths and English. So.
It sounds like there's a good variety of availability for, depending if you want to say to have to change your career, to change jobs, or maybe somebody who didn't finish their education or wasn't happy in education wants to go back at a later age.
Yeah,
I mean, you've mentioned there anything from school leavers, I think, up to people,
yes,
my age
and
that might want to.
Yeah, that's certainly happening. Yes, there are school leavers that are going straight into apprenticeship, but you will have people who are working in an industry where they don't have a qualification and they decide, you know what, I'd like to get a qualification and upskills, so they will enter into an apprenticeship that way, while they're at work, which is a great opportunity. A lot of the newer generation apprenticeships offer that kind of pathway into apprenticeship, if you like. But there's absolutely nothing to stop anyone as a school leaver or working and they want to change careers at any stage and go a totally different path, entering into the apprenticeship. There's no cut off, it's open to everybody.
Looking, say, to get back into work.
Yes.
And I suppose on that, expense wise, there is a certain amount of training. So do people have to pay fees for the training? Or what's the model there?
I suppose the earn and learn, I suppose the big thing is that obviously they're being paid for the duration of their apprenticeship, but there's a small fee to be paid for the traditional trade apprenticeships. Let's say it's €2,000. Now that's over the 4 years. There'll be 2 blocks of training where you'll pay €1,000 each. Now you'll be paid to be in college, so you'll be able to budget for that. For the newer generation apprenticeships, again, you're being paid for the full duration of the apprenticeship by your employer, but there'll be a fee, and that can range from about 600 to 800, and often the employer will pay that fee, so that's a college fee to be paid. So, but there are also supports available, I suppose, for the employer, for the newer generation apprenticeships, let's call them. There's a grant available now of €2,000 per person, per apprentice per year. So I suppose anyone seeking out an apprenticeship with an employer, the employer might necessarily even know that yet, but that's available to the employer as well. And of course, the apprentice has the benefit of being paid, while they're on the job.
So many opportunities there.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah,
right.
yeah.
Before we finish, just one final question. If people are looking to find out more information, where is the best place to go?
Yeah, I suppose, in terms of doing your research to sort of decide what apprenticeship you might want to do, it's the www.apprenticeship.ie. That will list the entire list of apprenticeships that are on offer, occupational profiles, and it'll give you a greater understanding of what is involved in the apprenticeship, the on and the off the job, where they're available. There'll be direct access to the website for the lead provider. That's the person who's developed and is managing the programme. Where you'll be able to express an interest in a job, or in that particular area. So probably apprenticeship.ie. Then if you're looking for work in general, or looking for an apprenticeship, you're going to have to seek out an employer, and that's really important. You have to be proactive there. They will be advertising on the likes of their own social media platforms, but on apprenticeshipjobs.ie, Indeed.ie, Irish Jobs, Glassdoor, all of those kind of websites. And it's about seeking those out, approaching employers that you would like to work for, regardless of whether they've advertised or not, and prepare your CV and go to them fully prepared and have your research done and apply, and see can you get an employer that way, because it is employer driven,
Okay, so lots of different pathways there.
Yes, yeah.
Linda Lally, thank you very, very much for coming to talk to us today.
Thanks, Maeve. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us today. My name is Maeve McCormack from Sligo Library, and all the information that Linda has spoken about is available at the end of this interview. So all the links that she mentioned are there.